Reflection. The word reflection comes from the Latin root to lean back or look backwards. The word reflexio. Do you want to try saying that? Reflexio. I love to, I never did that for a long time, and lately when I was in Singapore, I had to do 3 different assemblies with different ages, and I found having the repeat thing was actually fun. So we started doing it and we're going to make a symphony at the end, just so don't leave early, because you want to see and be part of the reflection symphony. Anybody curious? You better be, because it's so fun. It's one of my favorite things to do. So reflection, to lean back or look backwards, reflexio. Could everybody take a moment and either lean back or look backwards? Lean back or look backwards. And as you do that, as you lean back or look backwards, could you let me know what happens to you when you lean back or look backwards? What happens to you? What happens?
You look at something else.
You look at something else. Look at something new. Something else. Someone said everything crashes. Is that what it is? Cracks. You get cracked. You get something cracks. Like anything else. I heard somebody say stretch.
Different perspective.
Relax. Different perspective.
Curiosity.
Nice. It's one of my favorite words these days. Never have enough of that. Look at something new. Curiosity. Anything else when you lean back or look backwards?
Kind of felt like you're clearing your brain, or you're just
Clearing the brain, that would be kind of nice. You could do that often. Anything else? One more time, do it again. Lean back or look backwards, whatever's better for your physiognomy. And then what happens?
shifting.
Shift. I heard a deep sigh. Someone near me said a big sigh. Anything else?
Feels good. Yeah, relax. Relief.
Feels good. Relief. Do you say relief or release?
Relax. I said relief.
Release. Does anybody get a pinch like it hurt a little? Like it can hurt a little? Just a little hurt. A little hurt. Just a little hurt. Not a big hurt. Anything else?
Just opens up.
What was that?
Opens up when you
Opens
back.
up. So when I think about reflection, this is what I think of. Reflection is to help us feel good, look at something new, release, have a different perspective, sigh. Could crack things open or crack us open. Help us shift, stretch, clear the mind, relax. Might hurt a little bit, but it develops curiosity. So when I think of reflection, this is one way to get there, is to have people think of what happens in our physiognomy when we actually do what the word suggests. It actually creates a different space in time. It puts us in a different perspective. So what I want to ask you to think about for a minute, we did this a little bit ago for refresh, and you might have some similar things, because I'm going to ask, because the question is, how do you reflect? Not as a teacher in the classroom, but you personally. What do you personally do to reflect? What do you personally do to reflect? When you're being reflective, what happens? What do you do? Yeah.
Journal.
Some people journal.
Yep.
Big J. Journal. Anyone else?
I make
Draw.
lists.
Talk. What was that?
Making lists.
Draw.
Some people make lists. Was that draw?
Draw.
Some people draw. What else do people do? Walk. We're getting some of those old things again that we said. We walk.
Redesign.
Redesign. Anything else you do? What was that?
Drive.
Drive. Go for a drive. Anybody else? What was that?
Talk to people.
Talk to people. This is supposed to be people. I think they're not really good anymore to come up with a new idea. But the talk between people. Anything else?
Internal.
Listen to music.
Question.
Question.
Meditate.
Meditate.
Swim.
Swim.
Reread.
Reread. Nice. I don't think anyone's ever said that one before to me. Anything else? Yeah.
Menial chores.
What was that?
Menial chores.
No one's ever said that either. Ever.
Drink wine.
I was waiting. I said that one. I was waiting. I was waiting for wine or beer. Otherwise, I can't stop till someone says that, because that's when now we're getting to the truth. Wine or beer. The guy in Shanghai said that. He said beer, just like that. Because he said it's like with a cup of coffee. You sit often with somebody else and you talk over time, or by yourself. I mean, it's lovely. Anybody else?
Say internal dialogue.
Internal dialogue. So I have to put up the shower again because I'm a shower reflector. And it's very bad in a drought. Really doesn't work for me. It's not working well because I can't take a long hot shower. It's really bad.
Pray.
Pray. So I think the point is, there are a lot of ways we reflect. Would you agree? Yeah. A lot of different ways. A lot of different ways. So I'm going to model for you the most common practice of reflection in a school classroom. I'm going to be doing a little extreme maybe, but I think you're going to have to decide if it's familiar. So this is what I see going on in schools, that reflection process often looks like this. All right, everybody, take out your reflection journal or piece of paper. All right, here's 3 prompts on the wall. Can everybody see those? Okay, you've got 3 minutes to do your reflection. Do it right now. Can you do it right now? Are you finished? Have you done? Are you done with that? Everybody, raise your hand if you finished your reflection. Everybody finished their reflection? Okay, that's fabulous. Or, we do this a lot with teenagers. Could everybody turn in their 5 reflections on Friday morning? Okay, I've asked the teenagers. When do they do their 5 reflections due on Friday morning?
Friday morning.
Friday morning. People used to say Thursday night, but you're getting smarter. It's Friday morning. But they're doing it as they're texting each other. What'd you say? Because I run out of ideas, right? What does the teacher want you to say? They ask each other that. Am I right? Okay, those 2 things were a little extreme maybe, but are they familiar? How many of you say, uh-huh, that's a little familiar?
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh, thank you. So I'm here to suggest that's not really reflection. That's answering teachers' questions. At the very least, if you provide prompts, which can be very helpful, honestly, it can be helpful, at least let them edit them to be more personally meaningful. Or say, take one of these questions and rewrite it to be something that works for you, or add your own question. At least do that. That would be my basic, let's make a change without too much stress. Is that doable? Yeah. So at least do that. But I think we have to kind of reboot the whole process, because I really don't think that is reflection. When I asked teenagers recently, what do they think when they hear the reflection, what kind of sound do you think they make? Yeah, very similar. And I'll say, what do you think of? They say, oh, writing boring paragraphs. And they'll say, figuring out what the teacher wants and having to do it. And it's just not fun. Now, with little kids, it can be different, am I right? They're still new and shiny, am I right? Yeah. And everything's new and fun. And they love you so much, they want to do anything you want them to do. Okay? I even know a teacher in Texas where an 8-year-old kid came up to her to show something that kid had written for a reflection, and walked up and says, I don't know if this is deep enough. What do you think? So, at 8 years old, if they're asking that question, something's going well. But I think we still have to look at what can we do differently or better to really make this work. I went the wrong direction. How did that happen? So what are you aiming for with reflection? What do you really want to accomplish with reflection? What are you really aiming for with reflection? What would be your optimum? What would be optimum regarding reflection? Yeah.
Perfection.
Whoa, I don't even know what that is, but that sounds like a great word. Some form of perfection. Yes.
Self-growth.
Self-growth, yes.
I would say better understanding.
So there's reasons, so we're going to keep unpacking some of these reasons to let that be the guide of what we do in reflection. So it's not just to do a reflection. Do you see the difference? So we're going to look at what's our purpose. If we know our purpose, we can then create a better process. There's an article that you have called Meaningful Reflection. Everybody has that. So you don't have to read it now. But I just want to point out a couple things the author states in this. Now this is a little awkward because I'm the author and I was trying to put a slide together that was me being the author and quoting myself. So that's why it's a little weird here. But in the article, the author states, it's kind of odd. It is odd, but I wanted you to. Experiences of meaningful reflection encourage students to want to reflect again and to choose to integrate the habit of thoughtful reflective behavior. So that's a clue. If the students aren't doing this by choice, we're missing a mark here. And the purpose of reflection is actually not to reflect. That's a little significant pause so you can think about that for a minute. It's to become reflective. So if your purpose is for having them answer your questions, just to get that done, we're not getting there. We have to really rethink what the purpose of reflection really is. So you have in your handouts, not the article, you'll look at that later, that's your takeaway, thanks to Don and all for copying, and the school help copy things also. If you take the document that you have, your little handouts, you'll see a little page that has, it looks very identical to the one on, how convenient, it looks very identical to the one up here. I'd like you to take a little moment of reflection, and we started hearing some of the answers. We have students reflect because. Someone said perfection, someone said wrote, I'd like you to take a moment and just write down in that box. And we can email these to you, these can go out electronically also. We reflect because, just take a moment and answer that for yourself. Each person individually. We reflect, we want our students to reflect because, and see where that takes you. Just take a little bit to jot down what you think your response is. We reflect because. All right, so here's what we're going to do. At the count of 3, can everybody say their answer together? Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. I agree with all of you. Wasn't that a lot easier? I just wanted to move through that part. But you could do that with kids. They really love that, actually. So those are all the reasons we reflect. There's so many. There's so many. Why don't you literally, just for fun, take a minute and just tell the people at your table the reasons you said. Just take a moment, share that at your table. All right, so I'm going to share with you a few other reasons that I found very personally meaningful over these years of thinking about this topic. One is from an author, Margaret Fearless Barber, who said to look backward for a while is to refresh the eye, to restore it, and to render it the more fit for its prime function of looking forward. I really like that. It's a little poetry. But my personal favorite reason of all times, best reason, comes from a book, The Mixed-Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. Some of you remember the book. It's a story written by former high school science teacher E.O. Konigsberg. She passed away just a couple of years ago. And in the book, it's about 2 kids who run away from home in Connecticut and hide out at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And at the end of the story, they meet an eccentric woman, an elderly eccentric woman. And Claudia, age 12, goes up to Mrs. Frankweiler and says, Mrs. Frankweiler, you should want to learn something new every day. We did even in the museum. Now this is an interesting point because every day when I got home at school, my mother or the first adult who saw me would say something like what? What did you learn at school? This is like chronic. I mean, it's everywhere. And so I grew up thinking you're supposed to learn something new every day. So when Claudia asked that, that's a reasonable statement to make. But Mrs. Frankweiler says something that surprises me. And actually, I heard E.O. Konigsberg read this passage of all her books. This is the one passage she read in a room of 2,500 people, and I knew she read it for me. So I've been using it ever since. So Mrs. Frankweiler responds to Claudia in a different response than I expect. And she says, I don't agree with that. I think you should learn a course, and some days you must learn a great deal. But you should also have days when you allow what is already in you to swell up inside of you until it touches everything. And you can feel it inside you. If you never take time out to let that happen, then you just accumulate facts, and they begin to rattle around inside you. You can make noise with them, but never really feel anything with them. It's hollow. I know, isn't that great? It's like that just, when she read that, I never heard it, and I just stopped me in my tracks. And it's actually in my author's reflection in my book, I put this passage. For me, this has made a huge world of difference, this passage. Yes, please.
Oh, so I am by nature a very reflective person, always have been. And so I play games inside my head. Sometimes I talk out loud too.
That's a sign of genius, I've been told.
Anyway, so what I do is I take an experience or something I learned, and the game I play is how can I look at it a different way, and then look at it a different way, and look at it a different way.
It's wonderful. So these words just ring true for me. And I'll tell you, everywhere I go in the world, people just pause on this. They get it. I mean, this is something that I would not have thought of, I don't think, in this particular way. But that's what great writers do. They help us think through things. And then there's also this. 2 ducks. One says, shouldn't we stop to consider our options? And one says, why bother? Everything's going fine. That might be another reason for reflection. What do you think? Yeah. I love that. I thought, how perfect. Wow. So, and then there's also this other consideration. So I want to show you an image I found that was perfect again for this work. The woman's in the middle and she's thinking, what info do I need about the project? How can I collect the data? How will we use this information to make decisions? Where on earth can I recharge my mobile phone? Now, are any of these reflection? Is she reflecting in any of these statements?
No.
She's
She's questioning.
She's questioning. She's thinking. Here's why I put this up there. Whether I work at elementary, middle, high school, university level, a lot of people tell me, oh, we reflect all day long, but they're not reflecting, they're just thinking in different ways. All thinking is not reflection. That's my point here. All thinking is not reflection, and we have to be caring about that. That just because we have kids stop and think for a moment, is it reflective thinking, or is it just analytical? There's different styles of thinking. In a wonderful article by Robert Sternberg, he says that we need analytical thinking. That's not reflective, that's analytical. He says we need creative thinking. We need practical thinking. And then my friend Raj Mundra added the phrase, we need ethical thinking. So some of those may have reflective elements to them, and we may be reflecting while we're doing something, but this is part of what's going to keep me thinking about this forever. I'm still trying to figure all that out. It's not simple. And in that way, it's kind of cool. It keeps us on our toes. There's another aspect of reflection. So I need two volunteers, maybe up close, who could read the writing. One to be a man and one to be a woman. Who would be the man? Who would be the man? Okay, I got a man. I need someone to be a woman. I got somebody. Can you see close well enough? You're going to be the woman, right? You got the man. So here's the. You want to come up closer? So
I might need a little closer.
Okay.
Right.
You can come. He's going to read the man. The man's first. Let's both show up at the same time, but we're going to hear the man's comment first. Ready?
You had some academic.
Not that sort of deep reflection, Dave.
There you go.
Not that sort of.
Thank you very. Let's give him a thank you.